Alrighty, are y'all able to see the screen? Will someone
Yes,
say,
it's
unmute,
just
say yes,
loading.
thank you. Oh, it says screenshot is sharing as paused. Why does it keep saying that? Alrighty, thank you, Lauren.
All right.
Okay, thank you guys so much. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the first of two webinars on planning a Straight Talk watch party for your council. My name is Rachel Abel, and I'm your Texas PTA VP of Advocacy. I would like to introduce a few key people on the webinar. Feel free to unmute and wave when I call your name. First off is Texas PTA President Jennifer Easley.
Hey there.
Jennifer. Next is Texas PTA President-elect Heidi Picoy.
Hi, everyone.
Next is, yay, there you go. Texas PTA Executive Director Michelle Jackson.
Hello, welcome.
Next is Lauren Bingham, Texas PTA Director of Communications and Member Relations.
Hi, gang.
And next is Cindy Garza on the call?
She is not.
And April Ramos, Strategic Events and Partnerships Manager. Alrighty. And also joining us today from our special Straight Talk work group are Suzanne Danhoff, who is the Texas PTA Field Service Representative and the first VP for the Denton ISD Council of PTAs, and Shauna Barnes, the president of the Birdville Council of PTAs. Kelly Thomas, the Texas PTA VP of Leadership, was unable to join us at noon today, but helped us tremendously in creating the webinar. So I want to give her special recognition. If you have a question during the webinar, please type it into the chat. We'll be monitoring those questions throughout the hour. Again, thank you for participating today. And at the conclusion of this webinar, which is part 1, and the December 6th webinar, which is part 2, we are hopeful that you will be ready to host an effective and informative Straight Watch party. And Lauren, if you'll go forward. We want to begin this webinar with reflecting on the mission of PTA, to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. There is a Scottish proverb that states, take care of your pennies and your dollars will take care of themselves. Or stated in another way, little things matter because they make up the big things. Whether it is a small effort in the classroom or in your district, or a larger effort in your city, state, or nation, advocacy matters, and it is the heart of Texas PTA. Lauren, will you go forward? Now that we have reflected on our mission, let's continue with the purpose and history of Straight Talk. Happening in our non-legislative years, Straight Talk is a signature event for Texas PTA that maintains our advocacy focus and influence when legislators are not in session, but are still listening. Texas PTA assembles a Straight Talk panel of subject matter experts to discuss an area of concern. This panel is live streamed from the Capitol for our PTA communities. The first Straight Talk event began in February of 2020 and discussed teenage vaping. The second Straight Talk event was in February of 2022, covering the student mental health crisis as we exited the COVID-19 pandemic. Our third Straight Talk event will be in February of 2024 and is why you're here today. We'll discuss navigating the smartphone era with our children. Straight Talk gives students, parents, and educators the opportunity to expand their knowledge of specific areas of concern while promoting the value of PTA within their communities. And now, Shauna Barnes will introduce the goals of our Straight Talk event.
So the overall goal of this event is to remind our members of our advocacy roots while bringing attention to the important issues facing our children today. We want to start the conversation surrounding these topics by educating ourselves and others to better understand the challenges faced in our school communities and the impact that they have on our families, students, and teachers. As we learn about real-world challenges, we also want to engage our members and community by creating an opportunity for the meaningful discussion to help parents learn to address their issues more effectively. And last but not least, we want to help our discussions and ideas move forward by collaborating or developing policies, discover resources, and empowering parents to learn how to better support our administrators in tackling these challenges together. Of course that happened. Why would that not happen? Now that we've discussed the purpose of goals of Straight Talk, let's talk about the live event details. Texas PTA will host the live event on Monday, February 12th from 12 to 1 p.m. at the Texas Capitol. The live event will feature a panel of subject matter experts and Q&A, and it'll be live streamed from either a YouTube, Facebook, or Zoom platform for our members to watch. We will let you know which platform we plan to use by the December webinar.
Rachel, you're muted.
Rookie mistake. So now what? We've discussed the purpose and goals of Straight Talk and what is happening in Austin on February 12th. Now we want to discuss how councils can bring the topic of navigating the smartphone era to their own backyard by hosting a Straight Talk watch party. Suzanne, will you share what goes into hosting a Straight Talk watch party?
Sure. So these are pictures that are illustrating watch parties throughout the state from our previous two Straight Talk events from 2020 and 2022. As you can see, a watch party could look differently, including panels, students, subject matter experts, and administrator presenters. Projecting on a large screen allows for the group to watch together and have that shared learning experience as a community. In Grapevine, Colleyville, you can see a group of students gathered in a classroom together to learn about vaping, involving those stakeholders for whom we're advocating and who can provide important insight as to their experiences with the topic. You can invite a subject matter expert, as Frisco did when they invited a local pediatric pulmonologist to speak on the dangers of vaping in adolescents. Another idea is to invite a panel of campus or district administrators, staff, and student resource officers to talk about the issues they're seeing at a campus or district level so that your attendees can be better informed as to what is happening where they live and where their students attend. There are many different ways that you can present the information and include different community and district partners. Discuss those options and make those connections to get calendars coordinated early. So for the next slide, now that you've seen what a Straight Talk party could look like, let's chat about the logistics that get you to that fabulous picture. So first, you need to decide about the when. I know what you're thinking. We've already told you when the event is, and that's Monday, February 12th at noon, but that's just part of it. Do you want to do something before the live stream, something after the live stream, or something else we haven't even thought of? No matter what you decide about those things, we highly recommend scheduling a tech check before the event. I'd go as far as to say, schedule that for the Friday before. Then if anything isn't working perfectly, there's plenty of time to remove all of the bugs, so Monday will go as close to as planned as possible. The next question you'll need to consider is who should attend? For most councils, you'll be hosting a district-wide event. As the council, you'll want to include all of the council leaders plus your administrative support team. Then ask your local PTAs to spread the word to their parents and campus administration, and with this topic, make a special effort to reach out to counseling staff and the technology specialists. Then the fun part, guess how many will come? You'll need that information before we have finished the planning. Now it's time to think about how the event will be seen. This event is live streamed, so you'll want to make sure you're thinking about how you'll access the internet and if there's any sound technology you need to consider having in the room where it happens. Plus, you'll want to consider viewability. Do you need a venue that has one main screen or several smaller screens? You'll also want to consider how to access the platform that is used to host the live stream. No matter if it is Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube, you'll want to consider how those are reached in your school district. Also, keep in mind that you want to make the event as accessible as possible to the entire community. That might mean a central location. It might mean looking for a first floor room in addition to accessible seating, and it might mean having access to closed captioning and translators. The last thing to double check is how long can your event be, or do you want it to be? This is important information to be thinking about when we get to the last question. Where will the event be held? After having gone through the when, who, and the how, you'll have a good idea of what your ask will be of the school district so you can figure out the where. Once you finalize your location, double check the capacity limits, the technology limits, and then advertise location, location, location. So then, moving on to the next slide, what does the day look like? What could it look like? So here's a few of the sample watch party schedules that you might consider. Option 1 would be welcoming your group, hosting your local panel first, and then allowing for a question and answer period, taking a break, and then sitting together to watch the live stream. This would be optimal for those groups who would see more attendance for a morning event than an afternoon event. Option 2 would host the live stream first, and then the local panel and Q&A, which would work better for those groups that would prefer a later event in the day and allow for questions after all of the presentations. Option 3 would be a multi-day event. This would be a couple of shorter gatherings over several days that work best for the group and allow for an ongoing discussion over time. This will help to foster a relationship with this group as you come together to bring local awareness to this topic. And finally, option 4, choose your own adventure. What do you and your group want to do for this event that works best for your people and would make it most successful for you? There is no set schedule you have to follow. The main components that you will want to include are a time to watch the live stream together, a time to discuss what this means for your families and schools, and finally, a time to complete the call to action.
So let's talk a little bit about setting the tone for your event. No matter which schedule you decide to use, it's important to think about ways to truly make this event feel like a party. First, we want to make sure that we properly welcome all of our attendees, district and community officials, panelists, sponsors, and special guests. Think about things like whether or not you want to provide name tags for guests when they arrive. Next, let's consider food and beverages. Do you want to provide everything for your guests, or do you want them to provide their own bag lunch? Maybe you want to go all out with an amazing spread, or you just want to offer bags and snacks and bottles of water. Pick the style that works best for your community. Lots of times parties include games, and maybe yours will too. The games could be some simple icebreaker questions at tables so people sitting together could get to know one another, or it could be a more elaborate brain break activity between the live stream session and your local session. And if there's going to be games, there's often prizes. So do you want to provide a swag bag for each attendee that includes contact information for support systems within the district or local help centers? Or maybe you only want to give prizes to people in the audience that ask questions. It's up to you. What do you think will be the most fun? We should also be thinking, what are some of our takeaways that people need that could go maybe in a swag bag or be lying on tables or in the seats for people to take home with them after the party? Lastly, you will want to close by thanking your attendees for their time and attention to such an important matter. Thank your special guests, panelists, and sponsors, and encourage them to add their voice to our advocacy efforts by joining one or more of the PTAs within your community, and invite them to sign the pledge. We go to the next slide. There we go. Okay. So while you're considering all of the things that you want to have at your watch party to make it a true party, you should also consider your budget. You might have the funds already, or you might need some help. So either way, consider an event sponsor. You can use an existing community sponsor, a district partner, or you could go look for a subject matter specialist that might want to help be part of the event. It's a good idea to check out your local Chamber of Commerce for possible partners. When you find that perfect partner, talk to them about the items you are planning and to see if they can help you out with any of the costs. Could they sponsor a lunch and provide an item for the swag bag? Or maybe they could provide a panelist. And maybe, just maybe, they'll become a long-term partner with your PTA. Whether you have a partner or not, think about ways to stretch your dollar and stretch the event beyond the party by making it memorable for everyone.
Thanks, Shauna. All right, you guys are now ready to take the first steps in planning your Straight Talk watch party. You understand the purpose of Straight Talk and are ready to address the whens, whos, hows, and wheres of your event. Make plans to join us on December 6th for part 2 of our Straight Talk Watch Party Toolkit webinar. That was a lot to say. Straight Talk Watch Party Toolkit webinar. I felt like it was needed. We needed to go back over that. During the second webinar, we will discuss marketing your watch party, possible local discussion topics, taking the smartphone pledge, and how this relates to our legislative priorities. We will also have a form for our councils to fill out to let us know their watch party details. And we're hoping that our councils will have that filled out by the end of day on December 6th. Visit the Straight Talk page on our website to keep up to date with the developing toolkit and event information. And that can be found at texaspta.org/straight-talk. I want to thank you for spending this time with us and for your excitement about Straight Talk, navigating the smartphone era. A follow-up email containing today's presentation will be emailed out. And if anyone has any questions, I want to give you the opportunity to ask them live or put them in the chat now.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
I apologize because I've been a little out of the loop on this, so I'm trying to catch up. What specifically is the content of the Straight Talk session? I know it's about smartphone era, but I guess more directly, what are sort of the specific topics discussed in that? Do we know?
We do. And if you look at, I'm going to link it in the chat right here. If you look at the Straight Talk, let me see if I can paste real quick so you can go there. Did that come through?
It did.
Yes.
My apologies, because I think I missed that. I knew you probably had it, so thank you.
No, and we actually went over a lot of the nuts and bolts today of planning the event, not necessarily the discussion topic. That'll be a little bit more in the December 6th webinar. But to give you a highlight, the tagline of the event is a panel of experts that will discuss how smartphones are impacting our kids' minds, bodies, and classrooms. Okay. So discussing the mental effects, the physiological effects, what it's having to do with their academic growth in the classroom and the barriers that it puts up as teachers are educating our kids, our students.
Okay.
Help?
One quick follow-up question. Is it only looking at the barriers, or are we also using at ways that we can use these in positive manners?
Both. And that's where this is great, that it's really what's local to your community. A lot of school districts, I won't say a lot, some school districts have already taken steps to do things to mitigate how cell phones are used in the classroom. Some school districts, it's still the wild, wild west, right? And so this is where on December 6th, we'll talk about more about what happens locally. So we'll have subject matter experts that'll give kind of the overview of the effects of smartphones on our children. And then those are the discussions, and that's really where the advocacy part comes in, is locally what's happening in your school district and what areas do you want to play upon and kind of have discussions with your administration about.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, good questions.
We have a question in the chat asking about the target audience. Who is our target audience?
Our target audience are going to be your council leaders, your school district administration, your local PTA leaders, and then you make the decision if you also want that to extend the watch party to your parents and your students. I know when I hosted when I was a council president 4 years ago, I hosted a Straight Talk party, and we had actually students attend, high school students attend, because it was vaping. So it really is that choose your own adventure part. Your target audience are definitely your council leaders and your administration. Those are your number one and two groups, because that's where the policies and the discussions are going to take place. But as you move past that, whether you're having the audience, regardless if you're having the local panel take place during the day of Straight Talk, or if you're doing it at another time, there is an opportunity for you to bring in your local parents and your students and teachers, because you need to get buy-in from them as you move forward and how you're addressing the effects of smartphones in your school district. Does
And
that
so
answer your question, Michelle?
Michelle also just asked elementary, middle, high, like, are we targeting a specific group of parents or kids?
I think smartphones really are probably 3rd grade to 12th grade these days. I would say you're targeting parents in all of those demographics, because whether it's a smartphone issue that they're going through currently, or if they're an elementary parent, they're going to be facing it in the next year or two. So I really think it applies to all three of those groups. And as a panel of experts, besides teachers, who do you recommend asking? Really, and I would say anyone else, feel free to jump in here. I would say who's ever in charge of counseling for your district. You're welcome to partner with your student health advisory committee. They might have leaders on that could help, especially their board. Your technology specialist in the district would be probably my primary ones to include in these conversations.
I've also seen across districts, there might be one school that has a very strict policy and another school that has no policy. So maybe to have a kid from each campus come and talk about, how that feels, or the pros and cons of it, just so parents, again, in your district can get more information about what's going well and what kids think is helpful.
My question is about figuring out how many people are going to come. I tried to look at the pictures that were shared. Do you guys have any information from past watch parties, like a range of attendance? Because our programs person is telling me we need to find a spot sooner rather than later. I don't think we have the luxury of figuring out how many people are going to come and then finding our location. So I don't want it to be our junior high leadership group for the district did a social media thing a couple of weeks ago in the evening at one of the performing arts centers at a high school. And I think it probably was a good turnout. It just didn't look good in that huge a space. And so that's what we're trying to avoid, is getting a space that's too big and making it look like we failed, when in reality, we are happy with the turnout.
I think that really depends on who is on your invite list. I know when I invited the student leadership group at one of our high schools, we immediately went from maybe 15 district admin and PTA leaders to another 40 students that attended. So that meant our space needed to be larger.
So you invited one high school, and how does that work logistically with the?
So we have 2 high schools in our district. I invited both high school. We only have 2 brick and mortar high schools in our district. And so I invited both. Only one was able to attend. The other one had a previous engagement that they were helping out with the leadership kids on that campus. So sorry, I invited both. I invited both. But only one of them came, but the leadership class had 40 students in it. So it just increased our participants. So it really depends on who's on that invite list.
Well, and that's something we saw in this presentation that the district did, was some parents did bring their kids, even though it was advertised as being for parents. But if we're doing this in the middle of the day, then that's going to be a little different logistically for students. Did you have it at the high school?
We actually had it at our stadium in our community room, which kind of was a fun draw because it was the press box area where they come up way high to attract more people to attend. These students, the type of class that they're in, they have a permission slip on file that they can leave campus during that period. So it was very easy. That's normal for them to leave campus and it just happens that their class happened during the lunch hour. So it was easy to attend. But I think this number of attendees are really going to be based off your guest list. And that's where
I think also, and if you offer food, and if that's something you can work in, and I think that makes people feel more committed. So if you're offering a free lunch, that
And
could make a difference too.
they've RSVP'd.
Is there a range y'all can give us for past years' attendance? Like, does it go over 100? Did anyone see over 100 at their watch party?
Based on pictures and feedback that I've received, I don't think anything was large. I would say 50 would be probably a large group. I don't know what school district you're from, so I don't know if it's a very active school district or a smaller one.
I'm from Katy.
Okay,
ISD.
so it's a huge district. Okay. It depends, and I think it all depends on your marketing efforts and who's on your guest list. So you guys we have 2 high schools. You guys have probably 20 high schools, right?
We've got 7 or 8.
Okay, 7 or 8. I know Katie's just a booming area.
Yeah.
So you, it just depends on, you easily could have 50 to 100 people there.
Yeah.
I think it depends on how much communication you give ahead of time and what your marketing efforts look like. Yeah, but I would probably say people that are attending, unless you're inviting a student specifically, they're not going to field trip their child out of school for the event, so you probably don't have to worry about the student aspect.
And then my other question is, one of the tips was to set things up and look at the technology and everything the Friday before. If we don't have access to that room, is there some alternative?
I would suggest reaching out who's ever in charge of technology for that space. I mean, are they going to have a smart projector? Do you have the audio cords? Do you have the video cords to hook up? Can they dial into the internet directly from a smart board, or do you need to hook your computer up? Do they all have Mac hookups and you have a PC hookup, right? So I think every facility in your district is going to have some person that knows the technology, whether it's some overarching person for the whole district or it's someone's particular to that campus. But yes, I would definitely say get with them beforehand, just to make sure that you have this setup and the parts, the tools.
Okay.
And the platform enabled from their for security. Once we decide if it's Facebook or YouTube, and sometimes even if they allow YouTube, they maybe only allow campus YouTube pages, not any YouTube page. So you just have to drill down with your district technology people to make sure that's going to work too.
Perfect. Thank you.
And
What Lauren, I was just going to say what Lauren had just showed was the slide with the watch parties that did show Katy from 2 years ago, which is as apples to apples as you're going to get if you wanted a good indication as to what it looked like specific to Katy. It was on that slide, and I agree with Rachel. It'll be exactly how much you put into it as far as, getting the word out as to in promotion as to what it'll look like on your end as well.
I guess that's sort of what I was getting at is, if you put the most effort into your advertising, what's the maximum we could expect to see? And I'm hearing 100, so that is helpful.
And Kathleen, it's Michelle. One of the things that I would say is, I think the very first thing that would be helpful is to go back to your board and talk about how y'all want to use this event. So who do you want to reach with this event? Do you want it to be primarily a student-focused event where you're inviting, students, and then at that point, maybe you put it at a particular campus? Do you want it to be more for parents? And at that point, you put it maybe at a district facility where that's centralized, that a lot of parents would easily be able to get to. To me, that's sort of the first step, is to determine who y'all look back at what you did in 2022, and then figure out how do you want this program to be used in Katy, so that you can then begin to look at facilities, because I think it's going to have a lot to do with which audience you decide to present this to.
Okay.
The one thing I want to note about 2022 is that we were coming out, I know up here, I'm in Grapevine, Colleyville, and we were coming out of a spike in COVID cases. And so our school district had actually shut down for 2 days, just a couple weeks prior to that, just to what's the term, to break the curve, flatten the curve? Is that right? What it was, flatten the curve. So we actually didn't even host anything in person. In-person events were happening, but people were still a little leery in our district. So 22 structure might be great to use, but just remember the number of attendees might be off base, because you still could have had people leery of attending something when they had the option to watch it online as well. Just wanted to add that in.
Thank you.
And
Speaking real quick of you know, to the extent that you market it, do you want me to show the marketing materials we've got available real quick, or leave
yeah,
that? Okay,
it's a
so
preview.
on-
It's a preview to December.
yes, on the very last slide here, sorry. There is a link to a toolkit that we've got with some marketing materials that y'all can access, and including, we're venturing more into Canva. So for our Canva enthusiasts, here in the marketing tools folder, we've got a page here that has links to materials that we've developed in Canva that you can go in and customize for your council, that will include specific information about your location, if you've got a meal, if they need to register or anything there, as well as just some more straightforward kind of save the date information if you want to go ahead and start getting the word out there so that it can get on people's calendars. We've got those resources here for y'all to start getting the word out. So hopefully that will help. And if you see or think of anything that would be particularly useful that you don't see in there, let us know. And we're happy to work with you guys to help however we can for y'all to get the word out and break that 100-person max, because apparently that's now the number to beat.
That's super helpful to have those documents available for us to use. And I'm seeing in the comments that someone's planning on issuing tickets so they don't max out the space and have issues with that. And that's a great idea too. Thanks y'all for all the help.
If you
I'll
guys
pass
max out your
forward on-
space, I would like to hear from you.
Yeah.
Pictures. That is amazing.
Let
Dana,
me see.
oh,
Okay, good.
Sorry.
Dana, you asked if there was an opportunity to include district safety leaders or local police departments to discuss some of the dangers they are seeing amongst children. And I think that's excellent. I think that's that local component where what is specific to going on in your community that you would like to add. So yes. Awesome. Any other questions or
Did
anything
you
else?
see Melissa's question and Lauren's answer?
Oh, they did not. Marketing material tools in Spanish, and Lauren said yes. And April said yes. So both are available. Awesome. All right. Well, I hope this gives you some somewhere to start looking at, well, not the date, we have the date reserved, but to look at what venue and who you want to invite and have some, go back to your council and have some discussions about what you want the event to look like. And then we'll send out a link to register for our December 6th webinar, where we'll focus on the marketing efforts, how it relates to our legislative priorities, what kind of discussion topics that you guys can have at the local level, and then also taking the smartphone pledge that your parents and students can take.
And then Rachel, we have one more question. Michelle also wants to know if this could be hosted virtually at the council level.
So you would all, I guess I'd have to kind of, who is that? That was Michelle. Michelle, what do you envision that? I mean, yeah, I want to say yes. There's nothing that says you can't. Would it be where you would jump on one link and watch the Texas PTA live stream and then jump on another link to have the panel discussion?
She may not be able to unmute. She's, yes, she said yes.
Okay. And yes, I mean, I would say, I think once again, I would probably always recommend an in-person event, but you need to do what's best for your local community. So yeah, I think that's something that you could walk through, and we're happy to help you troubleshoot it if you want to follow up and ask more questions. I'm going to type my email in the chat.
I have just a couple of thoughts on it. I again, like Rachel said, we're really just here trying to help provide this event and this information to your parents, but also just recognizing, this is potentially a way to show leaders, our members, our values. So it is also a membership recruitment opportunity. And we hope that by helping you with some material for an in-person event, it helps you with your leadership pipeline. So just another way to get to know your local leaders. So again, you can do it virtually, but just recognize that there's some opportunities there that you might not get as much benefit out of doing it that way. But again, up to you.
Awesome. All right. Oh, yes. Lauren says more details to come on the membership drive challenge and ribbons.
Oh, Lord.
We love
There
our
will
ribbons.
be
You said it.
ribbons among other
Ribbons.
recognitions. But we do, I will say that in talking with Georgia and the membership committee, because this is so student-centric, the membership drive challenge is going to be focused on recruiting student members. And we've definitely heard from a lot of you that are at the middle and high school level who are having some challenges recruiting those students. So we're definitely planning on giving y'all some more tools and resources to make that happen and hopefully make this a good, inclusive recruiting event.
Love it. All righty. Any final questions? All right. Everyone.
Don't forget to register too. Lauren added the link
Oh,
for
yes.
the next webinar.
Thank you. The link is in the chat for the December 6th webinar, and we will also email it out. And I guess raise your hand if you have, well, a lot of people are, I can't see your hand. Raise your virtual hand if you think you have an idea of how you want to plan your council watch party. Are your wheels turning? Thank you, Melissa. We got one. I appreciate it. Oh,
We've
yes.
got another
Friends got her
Catherine.
thumbs up.
Thank you, guys. Catherine. Yeah, thank
Desiree.
you, guys.
Crystal.
All right.
Actually, Desiree and I were talking over the weekend while I was texting her. I'm like, I have a wild idea. Are you ready? We were talking about maybe co-hosting together. Our districts are close enough. So, to try to increase engagement. So, I mean, we have to run it by our council boards and, find this venue and all the things. But, it's more fun when you have friends, right?
I love
And Desiree hosts her meetings at golf places. So
Yeah, that's what we were thinking was
her too.
Yeah, we were thinking about getting Golfinity. So, and I apologize. I had a meeting I couldn't rearrange with the principal, so I jumped on late. But are you also needing people in the local area to come and fill seats at the Capitol, or?
We have not. Jennifer might help me on that one. I don't think we have gotten that far yet.
Oh, sorry.
So you know.
And I think, and I would say our preference is always to be out in the field, getting people engaged, because they can't really see the people in the audience. I know it might feel good to our panel. Right now, we're in a bigger room at the Capitol, but we're hoping to get in a hearing room, which isn't small, but will be a little tighter for like noise and stuff. So, if there's people who really are in the area and prefer that, that's fine. But our preference is let's go have some great watch parties and engage our communities.
Yeah.
Good question.
Thanks, ladies.
Yay. All right. Well, okay. Yay, Crystal. I love your comment. I'm glad you're on it. So, okay, perfect. If you guys have any questions, reach out and we will see you hopefully December 6th at the part 2 webinar to finish up the planning process. Awesome. All right. Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Have a great day.